Most people believe becoming a millionaire requires a six-figure salary, a high-powered career, or some kind of lucky break. But Ronald Read proved almost the exact opposite. Ronald Read spent most of his life working ordinary jobs. He was a gas station attendant. Later, he worked as a janitor. By all appearances, he lived a completely average life. He drove used cars. He wore simple clothes. He wasn't known for flashy purchases or luxury vacations. Then he died, and people discovered he had accumulated more than $8 million. Not $800,000, not $1 million, more than $8 million. Now maybe you're thinking Ronald Read was a once-in-a-generation exception. So let's look at another example. Terry Kahn spent her career working in administrative support roles. Again, not a celebrity, not a founder, not a Wall Street executive, just an ordinary employee earning an ordinary income. When she passed away, she left roughly $13 million to charity. Two different people, two ordinary careers, two extraordinary outcomes. And that's where the common belief starts falling apart. Because if wealth were determined primarily by income, stories like these wouldn't exist. The truth is that wealth is not created by how much money passes through your hands. It's created by how much money stays in your hands long enough to compound. That's the difference. Income matters, but what you keep, invest, and allow to grow matters far more. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about why some people quietly build enormous wealth, while others earn great incomes and never seem to get ahead. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how someone on a modest salary can realistically become a millionaire using the same principles Ronald Read and Terry Kahn followed for decades. You'll see that the biggest obstacle isn't usually income. It's the way most people think about money in the first place. Before we talk about strategies, we need to deal with the biggest mental block that stops people from ever starting. It's the belief that your income is too small to matter. Maybe you've looked at your paycheck and thought, what's the point? Saving $50 isn't going to make me rich. That sounds reasonable. It's also exactly backwards. Let's look at some simple math. Imagine person A starts investing $50 per month at age 18. Person B waits until age 30 because they want to earn more money first. But when they finally start, they invest $100 per month, twice as much. Most people assume person B wins. Not even close. Assuming a long-term average annual return of around 10%, person A ends up with substantially more wealth despite investing only half as much each month. Why? Time. Compounding doesn't care how impressive the contribution looks today. Compounding cares how long the money remains invested. Think about it this way. If you spend $6 every workday on something you barely notice, that's roughly $120 per month. That doesn't feel life-changing. But invested consistently over decades, that same amount can grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars. The amount isn't the magic. The duration is. And that's the psychological shift most people never make. They focus on the size of the seed instead of the number of growing seasons. Ronald Read didn't become wealthy because he discovered some secret investment. Terry Kahn didn't become wealthy because she earned superstar-level income. They became wealthy because they started, stayed consistent, and gave compounding enough time to do its work. The real risk isn't starting small. The real risk is waiting until the amount feels meaningful. Because every year you delay is something compounding can never give back. Once you understand that, becoming a millionaire stops looking like a lottery ticket and starts looking like a long-term math equation. And that brings us to the first practical step. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. The first step is simple. Assign every dollar a job. Most people don't intentionally spend money. They reactively spend money. The paycheck arrives. Bills get paid. A few purchases happen here and there. And somehow, the month ends with very little left. The problem isn't always income. The problem is that money without a purpose tends to disappear. This is why zero-based budgeting works. Before the month begins, every dollar gets assigned a destination. Rent, food, transportation, emergency fund, investments, everything. Let's say you earn $3,000 per month. Instead of wondering where the money went afterward, you decide where it's going beforehand. Every dollar receives instructions. The goal isn't restriction. The goal is awareness. Because when you know where your money is going, you regain control over where your future is going. This is one of the hidden habits behind people like Ronald Read. He wasn't wealthy because he spent perfectly. He became wealthy because he consistently spent less than he earned and directed the difference towards assets. Once every dollar has a job, something interesting happens. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "What goal would this money no longer be serving?" That's a completely different mindset, and it sets up the next step perfectly. The second step is to invest before you spend. Most people treat investing like a leftover category. They pay bills, they buy what they want, and if anything remains, they invest. The problem is that something rarely remains. That's why wealthy builders reverse the order. The moment income arrives, a percentage gets invested automatically, not eventually, immediately. Let's say you earn $3,000 per month. 10% means $300 automatically moves into investments before you have the opportunity to spend it. Now compare that to relying on discipline every month. Discipline gets tired, automation doesn't. This is one reason ordinary workers like Terry Kahn were able to accumulate extraordinary wealth. They weren't making perfect decisions every day. They created systems that made good decisions happen automatically. And the beauty of automation is that your lifestyle adjusts surprisingly quickly. After a few months, you stop feeling like you're investing $300. You simply adapt to living on the remaining income. Over years and decades, those automatic investments become the engine pulling your financial future forward. The key lesson is simple. Don't invest what's left after spending. Spend what's left after investing. That one shift can completely change your long-term outcome. But there's another piece that makes the whole system work, and it's the habit Ronald Read became famous for. Step 3 is living below your means. This sounds obvious, yet it's where many high earners fail and many future millionaires succeed. Every time income rises, there's a temptation to immediately upgrade everything. A nicer apartment, a newer car, more expensive vacations, better restaurants. None of those things are bad by themselves. The danger is lifestyle inflation. Because expenses have a remarkable ability to rise alongside income. And when that happens, higher earnings never translate into higher wealth. Ronald Read is one of the clearest examples of this principle. Despite eventually accumulating more than $8 million, he continued driving older vehicles and living a remarkably modest lifestyle. To many people, that looked ordinary. But what looked ordinary was actually powerful. Because every dollar he didn't spend was another dollar working for him. Imagine two people each receive a $500 monthly raise. One immediately spends the entire increase. The other invests $400 and enjoys $100. 10 years later, their lifestyles may look similar. Their net worth will not. The goal isn't deprivation. It's creating enough distance between what you earn and what you spend that wealth has room to grow. Because wealth is built in that gap. The wider the gap becomes, the faster your investments can compound. And once you've mastered spending, investing, and lifestyle discipline, the next level is increasing your earning power itself. Now, notice something important. Up to this point, we've focused on controlling money. But eventually, there's a limit to how much you can cut. There is no limit to how much value you can create. That's why step 4 is building high-value skills. A lot of people assume the market pays for effort. It doesn't. The market pays for value. Two people can work equally hard for 8 hours and receive dramatically different paychecks because the marketplace values their skills differently. Think about it. Someone who learns sales, data analysis, project management, software development, digital marketing, accounting, or specialized technical skills can often increase their income far more effectively than someone who spends years trying to squeeze another $50 out of their monthly budget. Let's say you invest 6 months learning a skill that increases your annual income by $5,000. That's an extra $5,000 every year moving forward. Over a 20-year period, that's $100,000 in additional earnings before even considering investment growth. And if you invest a large portion of that increase, the long-term effect becomes enormous. This is another reason the stories of Ronald Read and Terry Kahn are so powerful. People often focus on how much they accumulated, but the more important lesson is that they consistently directed surplus income into investments. The bigger your surplus becomes, the faster wealth grows. So ask yourself a simple question. What skill could I start developing this year that would make me more valuable 5 years from now? Because the highest return investment you'll ever make might not be a stock, it might be yourself. And once you've increased your earning power, the The next step is making sure you aren't relying on a single source of income. Step 5 is building multiple income streams. Most people depend on one source of money, their job. If that paycheck disappears, everything stops. Future investing stops. Savings stops. Financial progress stops. That's a fragile system. Millionaires often think differently. They gradually create additional streams of income that work alongside their primary career. Now, this doesn't mean launching the next billion-dollar company. It can start much smaller than that. Maybe it's freelance work that generates $200 per month. Maybe it's tutoring. Maybe it's consulting. Maybe it's a small online business. Maybe it's dividend-producing investments. The amount isn't what matters initially. The habit matters. Let's imagine someone creates 3 additional income streams worth $200 per month each. That's $600 monthly. $7,200 annually. Invested consistently over decades, that additional cash flow can contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars toward long-term wealth. And here's what's interesting. Once your investments become large enough, they begin generating income of their own. Your money starts producing more money. That's when compounding really begins to feel tangible. The goal isn't working yourself to exhaustion. The goal is reducing dependence on any single source of income, because every additional stream increases resilience, flexibility, and long-term wealth-building power. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about the mistakes that quietly destroy this entire process. Mistake number 1, the blame trap. Let's be honest, the economy isn't perfect. Housing can be expensive. Wages don't always keep pace with costs. Those realities are true, but focusing exclusively on what you can't control often prevents you from acting on what you can control. Ronald Read couldn't control the economy. Terry Kahn couldn't control the economy. What they controlled was spending, investing, and consistency. The moment you catch yourself focusing entirely on external obstacles, redirect your attention to the next financial action you can take today. Mistake number 2, cash today, skills never. This one is incredibly common. People choose immediate income every single time and never invest in increasing their future earning power. That's understandable. Bills are real. Responsibilities are real. But spending every available hour earning today's money while ignoring tomorrow's opportunities can become extremely expensive. The solution is simple. Dedicate at least a few hours each week to learning a skill that increases your future value, even if the payoff isn't immediate. Mistake number 3, the comfort zone tax. Nobody calls it a tax, but it behaves exactly like one. You stay in the same job. You avoid investing because it feels unfamiliar. You postpone difficult financial decisions. You keep doing what feels comfortable. The cost accumulates year after year. Almost every meaningful financial improvement requires temporary discomfort. Applying for a better role, learning a difficult skill, starting a side business, making your first investment. The instruction here is simple. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because financial growth usually begins where familiarity ends. There's one final factor people underestimate. Environment. Behavioral researchers have repeatedly found that human beings are heavily influenced by the people around them. If everyone in your social circle treats spending as entertainment and debt as normal, you'll naturally drift in that direction. If the information you consume constantly promotes luxury lifestyles, you'll begin measuring success by appearances instead of net worth. So make a few deliberate changes. Spend more time around people who discuss investing, business, skills, and long-term goals. Replace some entertainment content with financial education content. And create a personal learning habit of just 15 minutes per day. 2 books I strongly recommend are The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko, and The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Both reinforce the same lesson we've discussed throughout this video. Most millionaires look far more ordinary than people expect. Let's go back to where we started. Ronald Read wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a chief executive officer. He wasn't earning extraordinary income. Yet he accumulated more than $8 million. Terry Kahn worked administrative jobs and ultimately left roughly $13 million to charity. Their stories point to the same conclusion. Wealth is built by behavior, not appearance. The 5 steps are simple. Assign every dollar a job. Invest before you spend. Live below your means. Build high-value skills. Build multiple income streams. And avoid the 3 mistakes. Don't fall into the blame trap. Don't sacrifice skill development for short-term income forever. And don't let comfort quietly steal decades of progress. At the end of the day, becoming a millionaire on a low salary isn't magic. It isn't talent. And it certainly isn't about looking wealthy. It's arithmetic. Spend less than you earn. Invest consistently. Increase your value. Give compounding enough time. Do that long enough, and the numbers eventually become impossible to ignore.